Bienvenidos a nuestros amigos, familia de nuestra familia cristiana. Bienvenidos. Y la música también, muy bonita. So, some of you already know a little bit about El Día de los Muertos, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of background in case you have some empty spots of knowledge that I can fill in for you. It's a Mexican holiday. It's thousands of years old, and it's traced back to the indigenous tribes of Mexico to celebrate and remember those who have departed. It was originally celebrated in the summertime, but then it was later moved to coincide with All Souls Day. And it's celebrated throughout Mexico and other parts of Latin America, however, mostly in the south and not so much in the north. Some basic components of Dia de los Muertos is the altar, which you'll see in the narthex, and you'll find these basic elements. It's composed of candles, incense, food for the departed, food that the people enjoyed while they were here on earth, and certain little belongings or trinkets of the loved ones. And then the ever-fragrant, beautiful marigolds, which in Spanish is the cempasúchil. It's a lot harder to pronounce and even harder to spell, but it's the marigolds as we know them. And that's the flower that we have on display at the altar, as well as the petals are scattered around the front of the church. Traditionally, we wanted to scatter those from the home or the cemetery to a person's home so that the souls can find their way back home, so we can celebrate and remember them. And some of you already see a lot of people with their faces painted during Dia de los Muertos, but did you know that it's a symbol to ward off death? Because as death is coming around us, if your face looks like a skeleton, then you're basically telling death, hey, I'm already dead, don't look at me. Yeah. So it's a nice little bit of trivia that you may not have known. Again, it's a shrine. It's not a shrine, it's an altar. And if you notice subtly, Gary was really helpful with me, so was Maggie to build it today. We have 3 different levels. There's the shelf, and then one level, and then the table. And those 3 different levels represent heaven, purgatory, and earth. So again, in closing, there's no mourning death. We accept it as part of our lives. We can laugh in the face of death, and it truly is a celebration of those who we love and who have lived in the past. And it runs from October 31st all the way through November 2nd. And just remember, it's a celebration of life, not mourning death. So thank you very much.
A reading from Matthew 7, chapters 7 through 15. Hear what God's Spirit is saying to you. Ask, and it will be given to you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will open for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law of the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow, and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Here ends the reading of words that gives us insight to God. May God grant us wisdom and courage for interpretation.
And it's such a blessing to be a disciple, where we can gather together, Hispanics, whites, gay or straight, Democrat or Republican, we can come together because we are all welcome in the table of the Lord. And we are all his children. And we can share his love and embrace the blessings that he has for each and one of us. Today I have titled my sermon, it's in your hands, based on Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 to 15. Before I get into the scripture and give you the insight in which the Holy Spirit has given me, I would like to share with you a little bit of my background. This is where I am from, but I cannot remember. because I was brought to the United States when I was about maybe an infant, maybe 11 months. So this is the land in which I was born. That is the house that my parents built. They're actually sitting with us today. They are the pastors at Fe Esperanza y Amor Christian Church. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Rivera. I am the associate pastor at our church in East San Diego. It's in 70th Street and El Cajon Boulevard. We are Fe Esperanza y Amor Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. We were founded in 2011, and it's been an honor to be able to serve alongside my pastor, who happens to be my father too. And it's just a blessing to be able to be here with you guys too. My wife is also present. Very thankful for her life, and our daughter is present, the baby that keeps talking during the service. And I brought two of our youth and another church family who happens to be in the back. So I'm very honored for us to be here with you guys. So like I was saying, this is the home in which I never enjoyed, and the land that I was never able to enjoy. This is my grandfather, actually my great-great-grandfather, who happens to have a gun in his waist. And this is also one of my great-grandfathers, who happened to be a very unfaithful husband. And let's keep going. This is my great-grandfather, my dad's grandpa, and he is carrying my older brother, Joel. We'll keep going. This is my grandfather from my father's side, and this is my grandfather from my mother's side. So the reason why I show you this is because if you see this young man and this other man here, my father's side of the family comes from a family in which they would use guns, and they would be very bad people. They actually murdered people, and they treated their women pretty bad, being unfaithful, thinking that they're objects to them. And this is my mother's side, who happens to be the good side. My mother's side is actually very peaceful people. Where we're from, they're actually known for their culinary skills. They're pretty good cooks. We're from Oaxaca, Mexico, which is really down south, and we have this awesome plate called mole. My mom makes the best mole ever, and that is where I come from. But things, by the grace of God, turned for a good change. Right here is my grandfather, my dad's dad, who happens to be in jail because where we're from, the mainland religion was the Roman Catholic Church. When my grandmother started professing the Protestant faith, the town went upside down. So they started persecuting the people who were practicing this faith. And long story short, my grandma was supposed to be in that jail cell, but because my grandfather was a respected man, he demanded his wife to be outside and for him to be inside. At that night, my grandfather accepted Jesus in his heart, because alongside in that jail cell were other brothers and sisters and pastors who had been arrested by the people from the town. And this is where our family changes. This is my grandmother and my grandfather getting baptized. And that is the course in which our family changes. This is my father in his glory days. He was young, handsome. He still is handsome. This is my father. That photo that you see was actually taken in Anaheim He was here in the 80s working the fields. And there's other ones. This is my father at age 19.
83.
¿Cuántos años tenía? 19 years old. My father's preaching at the local church at our hometown where we're from. So this is where our family starts taking a change. This is my brothers, my siblings. We are 4 boys in our family. That photo that you see, we will actually live in 1 bedroom. We will rent just the bedroom from another family. And we were crowded with clothes, and we will sleep together. Moments that are priceless. That's me and my brothers at McDonald's. My father worked for McDonald's for 25 years. And this is our family. Those are my parents up there graduating, getting their degree from seminary. And our family took a change for good. That is me. That is me crying. And I want to share this with you because Matthew reminds us that we will not give our children something that will harm them. We will give them something that is good and nutrient. And in the midst of these times and where we have, unfortunately, a president that spreads and divides, we can't help it to avoid that. San Diego is a city that is very diverse. I went to Crawford High School in City Heights, and it was actually written an article about a few years ago that is, if not, one of the nation's most diverse schools. There is Somalians, there's Mexicans, there's Vietnamese, there's Cambodians, there's black, there's whites. And what I want to tell you is this: God trades ashes for beauty. So we need to thank God for the hope that anchors our soul. And we ask today that may God exchange our heaviness for God's love and praise. Many issues have roots, and we have a part to play to remove this systematic racism. I am one of 800,000 youth that was sponsored by President Barack Obama with the DACA program. And my wife and I are actually DACA recipients. And we are majorly affected by the decision that President Trump decided to do. So growing up here in San Diego, I do not know anything else. I've been so blessed with disciples that I went to a program from the General Church, and my wife and I went to a leadership academy about maybe 3 years ago, and I got the blessing to travel to Indianapolis, and I did a stop at Denver. Besides that, I haven't gone anywhere else. This is all I know. And all my life, I grew up scared just going outside the house. Because there's this systematic fear that it's placed in our hearts as immigrants, that if you see the Border Patrol, you're automatically scared. Or even if you see the police, you're automatically scared. I am actually 27 years of age. A lot of people look at me and they say, every time I go to the movies with my wife, they always ID me. They don't ID her. And when I was working at Chipotle Mexican Grill in La Mesa, my best friend and I, we used to work there, and we would have to walk because it was late and the bus stopped running. So many times we were pulled over by the police, and I didn't have access to be able to get a California ID. So all I had with me was my school IDs. And multiple times the police were to stop us because we were like younger. And they would say, where's your ID? And I said, well, I only have my school ID. And he said, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 19. And they will always say, yeah, like if I was born yesterday. You're not 19. You look 16. And And I was like, no, I am 19. He's like, can I call someone to verify it? And I said, yeah, you can call my dad. And they were verified with my parents, and they would let me go. But what I'm trying to say is that there was this fear in us. But I do know now that there is goodness in all of us. But it is a gift that we hand down to our children. It is a gift that comes from heaven. Nobody is born being a racist. Nobody. You're giving a rock, a snake, or are you giving a fish? So what are we handing down? Is it a good gift? Are we handing down a good fish or a rock? My great-great-grandparents were handing down murder, unfaithfulness, lies, deceiving, cheaters. But it had to come to a change. And it was my grandmother, who I never met. Part of being an immigrant, we cannot go to Mexico, because if we go back to Mexico, we can't come back. So all of my life, I missed out on my grandparents. I only have 2 grandparents alive, but the grandparent that actually made a change for our family, she died. She passed away. And it was the hardest thing for me because I couldn't be there. And she was the one who changed the course of our family. She handed down grace. She handed down love. She handed down forgiveness. Because she would look at my grandfather like the best husband of the world. And I ask myself, how did she do that? How can she bear to see her husband cheating on her? Having multiple children with other women. And it's God's love. Many of our issues can be solved if we embrace God's love. It is embedded in who we are. It is embedded in what God created us to be. So the essence of the gospel is acceptance and good news. Can somebody say amen to that? Amen. So are our hands stretched out, or are arms folded and unwelcoming? I felt welcome stepping in the front. It was awesome to start a church service with mariachis. That was awesome. So I know the love of God is in this place. And what I want to tell you today is the following. One of the things that while I was doing this sermon is, what is not healed gets handed down. One more time. What is not healed gets handed down. My grandmother had to heal all those bad things about us. And she was able to heal those things through the love of God. Our nation needs to be healed. Our communities need to be healed. Even our churches need to be healed. If we do not seize this opportunity for change, we are not a church. And I'm sorry to say this, we are merely a pep rally. Because we need to heal what is hurting us. So I want to tell you today, what you deny divides us even more. I hear a lot of people say, I'm not a racist, but my childhood best friend is white. He's half white and half Mexican. But you look at him and he's white. And I will give my life for him. And I know he will give his life for me. We grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same elementary, went to the same middle school, and went to the same high school. And his mom embraced me with so much love that she's my second mom. She's white. I've shared Christmas with them. I've shared many special moments with them. But I want to tell you something. It was due to my parents' teaching of me to love everyone, to respect everyone, that I was able to enjoy that, because there is stereotypes, right? People think that certain people are in a certain way, or people look at us and somebody could look at me and say, he's not a preacher, he's a gardener, right? Or many things that are just stereotypes. So every deed that we do must reflect the love of God in us. We are walking sermons. The biggest sermon that we can share is our testimony. So my father, he handed me down the grace and the love of God. But I want to tell you something, it was not always like that, because we are also affected by other people that are in our lives. And I remember that a lot of our community in which we grew up here in City Heights, San Diego, there was kind of like a division because people don't have that same grace and love in their homes. And I remember some of my friends would say, don't hang out with these people because they're like this and they're like that. You hang out with us. We're your people. In reality, we are all brothers and sisters. And what we need to do today is check what is in our heart. What are you handing down? Or what is it that you need to heal? One more time. Are you handing your children stones that they in turn throw at others? So it is not about what we are handed. It is all about what we give back. So one heart can destroy life. Sometimes God uses our broken hearts to heal a broken world. Such a sad thing what happened in Las Vegas. Such a sad thing that happened in Orlando. Such a sad thing that happened in Sandy Hook. But I want to tell you something. All those people that committed those things, they were children at one point. They had a father, they had a mother. Something was handed to them that will make them enrage or act in such a way that will eventually murder and kill people. So what I want to ask you today is, what is it, one more time, that we're handing? I'm very honored and very privileged to be here with you guys. I usually preach 45 minutes, but I only have 15 minutes, so I gotta wrap this up. And I just want to tell you that it's been the best time in my life being among all of you. This is my home. San Diego is my home. California is my home. The United States of America is my nation. I grew up every morning in Marshall Elementary School pledging an allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I do not know anything else. My wife doesn't know anything else. And she's from Tijuana. She was also brought as an infant. And I want to tell you that it is an honor and a privilege that a young immigrant like myself can be standing among you to show you God's grace. And God works in mysterious ways. A boy who comes from Oaxaca, down south, Mexico, dirty south, is here with you today. And I just want to tell you, hand down love. Hang down acceptance. Hang down forgiveness. Hang down the best of you, because it is embedded in you. Change is possible. Change is possible.